everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and today we're going to be going over a very fun and exciting build. I call this build the Temporal Ninja build. Now, this is a very special build. It is dedicated to one of my most long-term and most dedicated followers by the name of Beastie. He had requested about a month back that I create an AP Trickster build. At the time, my AP or my Trickster wasn't even able to do CT15 yet. And of course, this was before the legendary drop buff rate. So everything was going well until the very final piece of the set, these Pants of the Edge of Time, just decided not to drop. And it took me almost a month to get them. But the good news is I finally got them. And I'm ready to present this build to you guys. As with all my build guides, they're going to be extremely in-depth. So do make sure to check out the description below if you want to find a timestamp to jump around to whichever section interests you the most. Also, remember, if you like these guides and you want to support this channel, if you like what I do here and you want to see more of the guides, let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to be notified when we have new videos, and especially when we run the premieres for these new guides. Also, if you want to interact with me, I am on a regular basis still doing CT15 runs with followers on Twitch at twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream. We are providing people with free Eye of the Storm, CT15 obviously, gold clears if you haven't gotten that done, and just hanging out and having a good time. So make sure to, again, head on over to twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream to check me out, interact with me, and have a good time. Also, make sure to join our community, our Discord community. All that information you need is in the description below. All right, with that all being said, let's go ahead and jump into things. We will be going over everything from skills to armor mods to weapon mods. Going to give a tutorial of how this build is played. We're also going to do a full-on playthrough of a CT15 clear so you can see that in action, and commentary on the damage breakdown. So hope you guys enjoy it. Now let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to start by looking at the skills. So the three primary skills we're going to be using is going to be Temporal Blade. This is going to be our main DPS damage dealer. It's also going to work as an interrupt and a nice slow to help crowd control enemies and to kind of keep some of the damage off of us. Hunt the Prey is going to give us extreme mobility like a ninja. This is a very thematic build. We're going to be jumping around, really mobile, assassinating everything. And then, of course, what ninja is good without their ninja star? So you got your Venerator's Knives. What's great about this buff is that not only it's going to tag enemies, it's going to slow them, but also it's going to mark them so that they're going to take double damage from the next source of damage against them. So this is just going to be a great combination. Also, all of these abilities are going to synergize really well, because when we look at the skill tree, they're all going to be massively increasing our AP, our anomaly power. So they're going to synergize really well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So those are the skills you need to know about. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the skill tree to find out how we're going to build out the skill nodes. All right, next we're going to look at the skill tree. And this is going to be a very bottom heavy build. Very important here. We want to get as much anomaly power as we can. Also, resistance piercing is going to be big for us as well, as you're going to see when we utilize very specific mods that are going to work together, including this node right here. Activating the melee skill increases your anomaly power by 30%. So we're going to be punching things to get our AP up. We want to get our cooldowns down whenever possible as well for our weapon attacks. Again, we're going to be using the Temporal Blade. This mod is huge, as I mentioned when we talk about the skills. Basically, whenever we activate just about any of our skills is going to buff our anomaly power. So again, punching, which is a skill, is going to up our IP by 30%. Whenever when we throw our knives, it's going to increase anomaly power by 50%. This is huge. Whenever we use our movement skill, basically when we jump behind enemies, it's going to increase our anomaly power by 50%. And then when it says whenever your damage skill ends, increase the anomaly power by another 50%. So after our first swipe of the temporal blade, is going to buff it by 50%, and we're going to be doing it twice in a row. So that second one is going to be buffed massively. So as you can see here, this is between these three areas 150% anomaly power plus the punching. That's 180% anomaly power. To make it even more fun, we're going to be buffing our resistance piercing, which again is going to make it so that if any enemies do have some resistance against anomaly power, that's going to get swiped away. But when we look at the mods, we're going to be turning resistance piercing into anomaly power as well, which is going to be great. And over here, again, this is great at the end of the damage skill. So again, after the first time we swipe with our sword, or our temporal blade rather, we're going to increase our armor piercing and resistance piercing. And again, that's all going to be turning into armor power as well. So there's tremendous synergy in this tree. And then this is interesting. Shielded readiness is important. We're going to be very, very good at building up shields. Whenever we kill things in melee and close range, we're going to be getting massive shield buffs. We are not going to be getting any health back with it. This is why skill leech, we're going to be getting it off gear, and we're also going to get a little bit 6% here. Is also going to be helpful for staying alive. And then finally, altered executioner, really, really helpful since we're going to be in range, in melee range all the time, which is 10 meters or less for melee attacks. Our anomaly power again is going to stack 10% per enemy in that range. And because there's going to be sometimes a lot of enemies, this is going to really spike our DPS when we were fighting groups. So those are the skill tree selections and why we chose them. All right, next we're going to look at the armor and armor mods. So we're going to start with the helmet, which is going to be the goggles of Edge of Time. The goggles, they do nothing. Actually, they do everything. Very, very important goggles. They have perfect stats. In fact, as much as possible, you want to get anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skill life leech. Why? Well, anomaly power is going to fuel all of your attacks. Your punches, your temporal slices, your knife throws, everything. Your cooldown reduction is important because remember, you're a ninja. This is very, very roleplay positive as well. You're going to want to jump around as much as you can. You want to be slicing with your temporal blade. You're going to want to be throwing your ninja knives as much as possible. Stacking out cooldown reduction is going to be huge. And skill life leech is very, very important. As you saw in the skill notes, when you kill things in close range, it will not heal you. It will only stack your shielding based off that node that we chose. So the way you're going to be healing is through your damage. And the good news is skill life leech impacts basically almost all your damage. So your punches, temporal blades, everything is going to work off that. That is phenomenal. Now, your mods. The mod that you're keeping that comes on this is Double Slice. This is huge. It's worded, damaged enemies are additionally cut with an anomaly slice dealing 50% damage. This is big because we're going to be using another mod that lets us use Temporal Slice twice per cooldown. So you're basically getting 1.5 slices per slice. So combined, it's basically like getting 3 slices for the price of 2. Really, really big damage increase. This is critical. Now, the other critical mod here that's going to really be game changer is Unstoppable Force. Now, this increases your anomaly power by 50% of your resistance piercing. This is why we had those nodes that increase our resistance piercing and why I made it a big deal that we increase our resistance piercing. Because not only is it going to make it so enemies that have resistance, resistance against anomaly damage, you're going to get past it, but it's also going to double dip and increase your anomaly power even higher. Now, there's a trick of Unstoppable Force. You cannot naturally get it on a Trickster. That's because this comes off the Hands of the Reforged, which is a legendary gloves piece for a legendary set for the Pyromancer. Now, here's the good news. There's a trick where how you can get this very, very easily. So it is actually, you can go and buy this off of the vendor if you have a Pyromancer. Now you have to be able to, no matter where you are, you have to be kind of near the end game because you have to go over this NPC right here, Tiago, and he's going to sell it there to your Pyromancer. Now, if you don't have a high-level Pyromancer, there's one or two things you can do. You can maybe have a friend. You can create even a level 2 pyromancer. They can run you through one expedition, one high level expedition. It's going to give you in one expedition enough resources to basically go and talk to Tiago in his or her game and purchase the gloves. So that is option one, and they're going to be level 45, which is the minimum that they come. And you're not going to be able to wear them, but you don't care. You want to basically transfer it to this character preferably, and break it down, and then you're going to be able to go ahead and apply it to this gear. The other option is if you don't have a friend that's high level, you can come to our stream. We do this all the time for people, so come to check out my stream on Twitch. So that's at twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream. Check out the schedule tab over there to come to any of my streams and literally mention in chat that, hey, you saw my Temporal Ninja build. You need help getting the Unstoppable Force mod. I will actually, when you tell me that, I'll prioritize you, get you towards the front of the queue, and we'll get you hooked up, and we'll give you a CT15 clear. You're going to be able to get this legendary. You can also buy whatever other legendaries you want. And again, you're going to want to come on a pyromancer. Even if you just created it and they're like level 1, it's okay. We'll take care of it, help you get that mod in a couple minutes, and you're going to be able to go and make this build. So again, that is the key here. You do have to buy it on a pyromancer from Tiago. Again, it's always on there, but you do need to have access to the end game either through your own character or through joining a high level character. Okay, so that is that. And so those are the goggles of the Edge of Time. Now we're going to be using an epic chest piece. Now you may potentially wonder why we don't use the chest piece that comes with the set, because most of the sets for other builds you're going to be using the helmet, the chest piece, and the legs, because those are the pieces that are going to give you, for example, the primary stat you want, so anomaly power. But if you take a look at that very chest, it's got the perfect stats, but the problem is both of the mods that naturally come on this are meant for Cyclone Slice. So this is a version of it, and notice it has Rebound and Wind Slash. Neither are good for you. So you can change one of them, as I did here when I was leveling up before I had the legs to finish the set, but you're going to have a wasted mod slot, and we cannot afford to have a wasted mod slot. This is why we're going to be using the legs and the boots, but we'll get to that in a second. So you're going to want to get an epic piece that has anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skill life leech. And you're going to want it rolled with Untamed Power. Untamed Power is huge. This is going to be your second highest source of damage, because using the skill deals a certain amount of damage, and right now it's going to scale with anomaly power. Baseline it's 48,000 or so, but as soon as we get our buffs, this is going to be over 100,000 base damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius around you. So it's an AoE ability. The damage is equal to 30% of your anomaly power. This works with every skill, including your punches. So when you jump towards something, you're going to proc this. When you throw your knives, you're going to proc it around you. When you punch something, whenever you use your Temporal Slice back to back, this is going to proc back to back. Massive amount of damage. It's a tier 2 mod, not too hard to get. And then this allows you, for the secondary option, to get Anomaly Echo. So the firepower we don't care about. We basically care about that 11,484 anomaly power. This procs whenever you activate a skill, and it lasts for 15 seconds. There's no internal cooldown on this, so you're gonna have this up infinitely, because anytime you punch, anytime you use any ability, this is gonna keep refreshing it. So huge, very important mod for this build. Next we have the legs. Again, fortunately, perfect stats, anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skill life leech. It comes with strong slice. In a recent patch, this got buffed, which is nice. So this now, at level 50, will add an extra basically 97k base damage to your attack, which is a nice buff. It used to be like 60-some thousand. And the additional mod you want to put on this is Power Assimilation, which boosts your anomaly power by 11,061 for each elite present on the battlefield. It is not uncommon in this game to have 2, and then some maps 3 or even 4 elite enemies at the same time. So when those are up, you're talking about between 11,000 and 44,000 potentially base anomaly power. And if you look at my baseline, which is 159, that's like an extra 30-some%. And then don't forget all the modifiers, all those 50% modifiers and 30% modifiers. It's going to get this anomaly power number through the roof when it's maxed out. So those are the legs, very, very important. Continuing this trend of perfection is anomaly epic gloves with, again, anomaly power, skill life leech, and cooldown. It's going to come with cut loose. Now again, we want to get our cooldown reductions, as I mentioned earlier, as low as possible. This is very, very good. The way that I do the calculations on this, it's going to reduce your skills cooldown by an extra 20% for Temporal Blade, your main ability. And then the mod you're going to put on this, and this is what really takes this build from being really, really good to being amazing, is no resistance against fortified. So increases your resistance piercing by 50% of your armor piercing. And then don't forget, you're then gonna convert the resistance piercing to your armor piercing. So really what it translates to is 25% of your armor piercing turns into anomaly power. Now this is big because you're going to see in a moment our weapon is going to have armor piercing, and also just as a reminder, we're gonna get that from these skills as well, right here. So at the end of any damage skill, your armor piercing is increased by another 30%. So that is really, really helpful between those two. That's 60% extra armor piercing, and that's going to be converting again to help you get even more anomaly power. So again, that 60% between those two is going to be an extra 15% armor piercing. That's going to be multiplicative. Don't underestimate an extra 15% anomaly power when you already have in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of anomaly power. It's huge. So that is the Inquisitor's gloves. And then you're gonna get, to finish things off, is Footwear of the Edge of Time. Now, this is the only piece that doesn't have anomaly power, which is a bummer, but there's just no way around it. The good news, at least, is that they did buff the max health to be more substantial, so an extra 4,400 health isn't bad. The other stats are still perfect, still cooldown reduction and skill life leech. And this is where your survivability comes from. The main mod is Temporal Armor. You'll notice we have no defensive mods on this. We, like a ninja, are kind of a glass cannon, but this is tricky because this is going to make us way less of a glass cannon, because our armor in some situations is going to go through the roof. It boosts your armor by 50% for each affected enemy. Lasts 8 seconds, stacks up to 8 times. So again, we're not using any traditional armor buffs except for this. So when you do that slice, you slice through 4 enemies, all of a sudden you have a 200% armor buff and you're capped. So even though this looks really tiny, 52K, which is 50% damage reduction, you're going to very quickly go to 85% when you're fighting multiple enemies. So really, really good. And then the mod you're going to put on this is Slasher. So Temporal Blade, this skill can be activated one more time before triggering a cooldown. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning. You combo that with that double slice, and this is absolutely phenomenal and amazing DPS boost. So those are your main mods. Now, if you don't have some of these mods, some of these DPS mods, maybe you don't have Power Assimilation, maybe you don't have Anomaly Echo yet, maybe you don't have Unstoppable Force. What mods could you temporarily put in? Well, there are a couple tier 3 mods that, if you just happen to have those, that could work. Let me show them to you right now. So again, the mods that we talked about are optimal, but if you temporarily are a little desperate, there's a couple that could work in a pinch. For tier 3, Captain Hunter isn't bad. Again, most of the issues you may have DPSing is against the elite mods. So this increases that by 25%. You could, in theory, basically put this instead of the armor conversion mod. So 25% damage against only elites, as opposed to that extra 25%, or basically the equivalent of 15% of armor power. The reason I normally choose the armor power mod, that's when it comes to converting your armor penetration to resistance, and then again with that little chain command, chain combo to armor power, is because all of those armor powers are going to multiply of all those other bonuses, that 180% bonus of armor power. So that 15% increases to a lot more. So it's going to do more overall damage than this Captain Hunter of 25%. But if you don't have one of those, this is pretty darn good. So another option when it comes to tier 2 mods would be Brawl. Boost your melee skill damage by 100%. You are going to be punching a lot. It's not going to be a huge part of your damage, but this could become a decent amount of your damage if you don't have one of the tier 3 mods. The other alternative, believe it or not, is going to be Stand Tall. So Stand Tall, you're going to receive 9,000 anomaly power and 12,871 firepower whenever you're out of cover for more than 5 seconds. You're always going to be out of cover. Most people get this for the firepower, but that 9,000 is not that far off the like 11 to 12,000 that you get from the tier 3 mods. And this is much easier to get. So those are two potential kind of DPS replacement mods if you don't have some of the tier 3 mods that I listed before. So use these two as kind of your best and slot alternatives, and because they are tier 2, they're relatively easy to get. There's a good chance you will just get them naturally through leveling and breaking down basic blue and epic gear. Another mod for consideration, if you're struggling, I mean, you shouldn't be dying very much because of the defensive mod that you get with the boots. But again, let's say you're missing an offensive mod and you could use a little extra defense. You could get rejuvenation. Again, this is even weaker for an anomaly build because the main thing here is armor and firepower, but it does have 7,000 anomaly power, which is nothing, you know, to sneeze at. And it does give you that 41,000 armor. You're going to be healing constantly, so this will be proccing constantly. But remember, it's up for 8 seconds, and then it has to refresh for 10 seconds. It's up for 8 seconds, so you're not going to have full uptime of this. But again, if you have nothing better, this is a decent option below either of the last two I mentioned. All right, next we're going to look at weapons, and your primary kind of best in slot weapon for this setup is going to be Heir to the Desert. Now, because this is an anomaly power build, you're not really going to be using a gun to do gun damage, like firepower damage. You're going to be using it as a stat stick, meaning we care about what statistics are on the weapon. So in this case, it has armor piercing. And remember, we're converting armor piercing to resistance piercing and resistance piercing to anomaly power. So this is basically plus anomaly power. It's not huge, but I mean, this basically equates 7.5% extra anomaly power. Not bad. Status power is gonna make it so that your slows last longer. That's all this is gonna do. You don't have any dots, any damage over time effects on this, so it's not as useful, but it will slow longer, which is good. And skill life leech, more healing, awesome. Now, Sandstorm is actually not a bad mod. Sandstorm, this mod, damage scales only with level. So as soon as you have a level 15 version of this gun, it's going to do that full damage. It is a standard. It conjures a tornado, lasts 5 seconds, does a decent amount of damage. It can't hit multiple targets. That's a plus. The downside is it moves and doesn't stick on enemies necessarily. So it's rare that you get the full damage. But since you just tap it every 5 seconds or so, or sometimes longer, you may forget. It's just an extra little damage boost. It can add up if you're good at remembering to use it. And then you're going to want to put the Fortress mod on there. Now, the Fortress mod, for better or for worse, is the only mod in the game that's going to directly increase your armor power to a high level. So this notice it says receive up to a 43% damage bonus based on your armor. So key here is, if you're just running around, you're not going to get this full 43% bonus when you have 52,000 armor. But as soon as you slice for the first time and you start stacking from these boots the temporal armor, this is going to spike. The estimates are you only need about 100,000 armor or so to get the most out of this. So as soon as you hit 2 enemies of your temporal blade, and remember this buff lasts for 8 seconds, you're going to have 8 seconds of that 43% damage increase, and this is all damage. Anomaly power damage, firepower damage, everything damage. Mod damage is going to increase as well. So this is huge. This is all you technically need. Now, the other two weapons are icing on the cake, and basically what allows you to do is allows you to do what's called a moaning build spam. I always, when I first mentioned this on most of my earlier birds, it's kind of like throwing out a thermal grenade. So you're going to want to get a gun, and there's basically three good options. The best in slot option, in my opinion, is the guillotine. And the second and third options is getting either Death Shield and or anomaly. Now, you're going to need to have a Death Shield to get that Fortress buff. That's what this weapon is what you get to put the mod on Air to the Desert. And the anomaly is where you get the Moaning Winds. Now, the reason the guillotine is actually the best weapon for this, it also has an innate radiation splash. So look at the wording. Reloading causes a small explosion that inflicts vulnerable and deals basically 100k base damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius, 6-second cooldown. We care about the vulnerable. This build does not apply vulnerable. Vulnerable makes it so that enemies take additional damage. Basically, it used to be 25%. It got nerfed. It's 15% damage, but it's an extra 15% damage against all sources. So this is actually very, very good. And the way you do this is at the beginning of the run, you actually shoot off your gun before you get started to go to 0 ammo. And as it's trying to reload, you swap back. So the gun is basically in a state that has no ammo. In fact, as soon as you run out of ammo, it's going to try and reload it. It's going to proc this AoE. But it's also going to proc Moaning Winds. And Moaning Winds, when reloading, it creates a strong blast around you, dealing another 300k damage to enemies in range of 8 meters. So even bigger AoE, 8-second cooldown. So combined, this is roughly 400k. It gets modified by Fortress. It gets modified, and then if you were to use it a second time, what you'll see in a second, it would get modified by that extra vulnerability damage. So this can get pretty high, this number. So that way it basically works is you're doing your rotation, and when everything is on a cooldown, you hit your swap weapon button, and it's going to swap to this. Again, it has no ammo. It's going to proc it, and you're going to swap back before it reloads. And so basically every 8 seconds, you could swap back and get this full effect. If you swap back early, it's not going to work, or maybe if you swap after 6, you'll just get radiation blast. But you're going to learn how to time it. Now, if you want to get really fancy in advance, you can double dip and also get Torment and Agony. The reason you want Torment and Agony is you still put Moaning Winds on it, but it comes with Clip Combustion, which is a baby version of Radiation Splash. So it has actually a 2-second cooldown, which is nice. It's got less of a radius, 5 meters instead of 6 meters, but also does 96,000 base damage, but no vulnerability. This is why you'd want to, for example, bust out the guillotine, apply the vulnerability, get the double AoE, then hold down that swap weapon button. It's going to swap to the pistols. Again, you would have, empty that clip at the beginning of the run. So you're going to, when you swap over to this one, again, it's going to be empty. It's going to try and reload. It's going to proc this double AoE. You hold down the swap weapon again, and it should swap you back to Air to Desert. So the biggest thing that you're going to learn is that you need to learn to know when to swap and make sure you don't end up on the wrong weapon, because if it actually reloads fully, you're going to have to empty the clip again. But you have this extra playstyle where you can go from main weapon most of the time using your abilities, and then when you need to do a little burst AoE when your abilities are on cooldown, do either a single or double swap, get all that DPS, go back to your main weapon. By the time you do this full rotation, which takes a couple seconds, one or more of your abilities will be back on cooldown. It'll be a nice natural flow. You're going to see me doing this situationally as I play. So again, these are totally optional, but they are best in slot if that's what you're looking for. If you don't have a guillotine, you can put either an anomaly or a Death Shield in that slot. Just make sure, because they, again, one has Fortress, one has Moaning Winds. You would basically just put the opposite in there. You're gonna, as a backup option, instead of having Radiation and Moaning Winds, you would basically have Moaning Winds and Fortress. It's going to do more damage, but it doesn't have that. It's not going to have that vulnerability buff. So it's another option, but I do prefer the guillotine option. So those are all of the mods. Now next we're gonna do a little weapon tutorial. We're gonna jump into a level because I need them enemies to jump around in, and we'll show you how to use these abilities together and how to use the weapons together effectively. Alright, here we are at the beginning of the Frontline level. A lot of classes hate and builds hate this level, but you're going to love this as the Temporal Ninja. Lots of clustered enemies to swipe. So let's kind of go through the protocol. You're going to start and unload your shotgun. It's really slow to fire, so you don't want to have to do this very often. And then swap over to these, unload them. Notice the proc, and now tap, double tap, and you're back on your main weapon. We start the event. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to jump in, then we're going to punch, and then we're going to throw the blades, the knives, and then we're going to use the blades. So jump in, punch, get these knives, 1, 2, and watch them all die. Notice your jump is ready on cooldown. You can get this proc if you want off. Okay, and let's see another batch. Everything's off cooldown. Jump in, punch. There's 1, there's 2. If anything's alive, swap. Boom. There's the Moaning Wind swipe, swap. Everything's dead. Okay, let's jump behind them. Throw the knives. They're all slowed. And they will be all dead. Boom. Again, look at that rotation. Our cooldowns are so fast. Again, you're constantly AoE healing. You're crowd controlling them. You're like a ninja, getting in and out before they can even do anything. Very, very nimble. And somebody's far away, no problem. Also, if you're in trouble, you can get away like this very easily. Try not to run around with only one of these temporal blades because you want to get off of cooldown and working as soon as you can. So very smooth, just like that. And again, there's my rotation again. And there you go, just like that. And you can even see, well, right now you had 156k, that's already at 75% mitigation. That wasn't even after a big hit. So your armor is going to be perfectly fine. And there we go. Took a while actually for me to die just standing there, as you saw. But that is your complete rotation. Rinse and repeat. You will love it. So much fun. Alright, so you just saw the tutorial on how to use these weapons to kill everybody. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to show you a full CT15 solo run through that same level Frontline, causing mass destruction. Enjoy. At the end of the run, I'm going to kind of go over the damage breakdown, and I will see you guys on the other side of the run. Alright, let's take a look at the damage breakdown. Overall damage, 196 million. Again, this is going to differ depending on what run you do. So it's not as big of a telltale. Huge amount of shield generation, 820k. Great skill lead healing. Here's the damage breakdown. Temporal Blade, by far top damage, 87 million. That Untamed Power damage, huge. That mod, 64 million. And then your push, your slowing push is basically your punch. And your mod, the Moaning Wind damage, is a little supplementary. But again, those two main sources, that mod and your Temporal Blade as intended, is the top damage. Alright guys, so once again, that is my Temporal Ninja build. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, I have dedicated this build to Beastie. Thank you again for all your support to the channel. I wouldn't be quite where I am without your support. And to all of the rest of my great community that come to my stream day in, day out, supporting me, and that have helped make our Discord server really lively and really helpful and really positive. Thank you, every single one of you. Also, secondary special shout out to Max Dudorino and Digita, both amazing assists on my streams. And again, Max Dudorino, a excellent moderator, helping keep those bots in check. So thank you guys so very much. Look forward to creating lots more mods for you guys. No, not mods, rather build videos. If you guys have stuck around this far, hopefully I've earned your trust here, earned your like, earned your subscription. And if you really want to help out the channel, make sure hit that little notification bell. Means a really big deal to the algorithm, and it helps YouTube know that this is a channel that should be getting more exposure. And because this is a relatively small channel, or actually very small channel still, every single one of you means the world to me. So I hope I see you guys in the comments, and also on my stream at twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.